Hello, everyone. I'm Mary Cheney. I am the Vice President of ICMCP, and responsible for a lot of the speakers today and the content today, and they gave me this panel. Well, Angela made me do this panel. She told me it was non-negotiable. But when I was thinking about putting this panel together, and as I started to try to address some of the things that I felt that the audience members may benefit from, I went through the process of sourcing folks and talking to folks, and of course, I came up with an individual in Bernicia that is on the younger end of her career. We have Renee Forney, who is very seasoned, and they'll introduce themselves. She's very seasoned.
Very seasoned.
Yes, and then we brought Jackie in, who survived. Right?
Yes.
And
Who's seasoned.
there you go. And starting something new. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. I'll state briefly for those that don't know, what my experience or my background is. Former FBI agent, attorney, then FBI agent, turned entrepreneur, turned corporate executive, turned cybersecurity law practice. So that's how I'm going to summarily state what I am about, and I'm going to let these beautiful young ladies introduce themselves, starting with Jackie.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Jackie Evans, and when Mary and I first started talking to each other, and I told Mary that I had been with IBM for my entire career, Mary said, why? And so I proceeded to tell her that my plan, I had a 5-year plan at IBM, which didn't work. But my plan was to go there for 5 years. And in that period of time, I think I probably, every 2 to 3 years, I got promoted. I don't know if I was good or if they were trying to get rid of me, but it didn't matter because I got more money and I wanted more money. But I went from being in IBM technical sales. Well, let me just start by saying I graduated from undergraduate, a degree in math, and then I went on to graduate school and got my MBA. And the reason that I got my MBA was because once I got to IBM, I realized that I didn't understand the business world. And I thought that I needed to understand that to be successful, and so that's why I went back to graduate school. But a little bit about my career. I joined IBM right out of college, and I was a programmer, and I went from being a programmer to actually being a technical sales rep, selling the big computers, helping install the big software, the database software, the operating system software. And then from that, I just progressed to the point where they asked me to make a decision. Do you want to stay stay on the technical role, or do you want to go to management? And I basically made the decision to go to management. And from that point on, I went from our local branch office as a manager to our regional office, which was New York City, responsible for all of the technical support reps in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. And then from that, I went to headquarters, which is in Armonk, and was responsible for a lot of initiatives to change our sales force. And then they started giving out packages, and I asked, could I sign up for that? And they said no. And I said, I can make it worth your while. And so they said, okay. And I got a package, and I left IBM, and I became an entrepreneur. And I focus, I'm actually a certified coach. I focus on going into organizations and helping them figure out what's happening, what's wrong, why are they stuck, what's going on, and really developing their people. And that's what I do, and I really enjoy it. So I'm happy to be here today.
I was having a conversation earlier about affinity groups or groups that are within corporations that are designed for women or designed for minorities. And I want to get a sense of you, Jackie, and within IBM and those types of groups, were they successful for retention purposes? Because a lot of them exist for retention purposes themselves. So were they helpful?
I think when IBM started the affinity groups, probably was in the early 80s. And so their whole idea was a lot of us were coming into IBM as on the back end of the civil rights movement. And so their whole idea was we were going to bring all of these minorities in, and it became clear to IBM that we weren't mingling. And so they were trying to help us. You know, they felt like if we have these affinity groups, they can start mingling. And I think that from a networking point of view, it was great. Everybody kind of hung out. We'd meet on a Friday. We'd meet at a hotel, have drinks. But the reality is that I think we lost the purpose of it. You know, the purpose was really to help the minorities get promoted, to help you understand how to work and navigate yourself through the system. And for that reason, we were not successful. Today, I think that they probably have a better model to follow than when they first started. But I would tell each of you is if you're in an affinity group, make sure that they have a purpose to help you grow, have a purpose to help you develop and move on within the organization. Even if you're not moving on in that particular organization, make sure that they help you understand what it takes to move on in any organization that you go to. How many people are in college or undergrad? Okay. How about in business for 5 years or less, in the professional business? How about 5 years and longer? Okay, most of the people, okay. The reason I asked that question, because if you've been in business 5 years or longer, 10 years or longer, you probably know this, but you need, in my opinion, 3 key people. You need to have definitely a mentor, but you also need to have what I call as a coach. And a coach is somebody who's going to ask you those questions about you. What do you want? Where do you want to go? What do you feel like you need to do to get there? They're going to keep you grounded, and they're going to help you show your authentic self. But the third person that you need, which is very important, somebody said it, is a sponsor. You need a sponsor. You cannot make it in this business without a sponsor. And there are lots of ways to get a sponsor. You know, I'm not going to go down that path, but you got to be visible. And there are lots of ways to get, be visible so you're seen. Because you're not going to get a sponsor unless they feel that that you're on the right track. You have to get that visibility to get a sponsor. And how do you get the visibility? Volunteer to go and speak or represent your manager on his behalf or her behalf. Participate in any kind of organizations, be on board initiatives, any kind of programs that are starting up in your organization. Volunteer to be on it. And learn how to do public speaking. It's very important. If you have to go take a class, learn how to do a public speaking, because that will help you a lot. So, how do you overcome or the challenges that women and minority women face at times in the corporate environment, that unconscious bias? I know you have stories. You're looking at me like, Mary, why'd you ask me that question? But how, in giving advice or counsel to these young ladies and gentlemen that are in the audience on fighting those challenges from an unconscious bias perspective? Well, I'm probably not the one to ask, because I was the angry black woman. Okay. And thank God for friends that would say, calm down, Jackie, calm down, this too shall pass. But I had situations where, being the only person of color and the only woman in most of the rooms, I don't know if you're familiar with IBM's headquarters, but when you walk down IBM, the halls, everybody is 6 feet tall, white and blonde hair. That's it. And so they weren't used to a culture of anybody else. And when you would go into meetings, they would dominate the meeting, and if you said something, they just ignore you and go right on to the next point. Or if you had a good point, they would still ignore you. And after about 5 minutes, somebody else would bring that point up, and everybody in the room would say, that's a great point. So that was hard for me. And one of the things that I learned after falling on my face quite a few times, I learned that before I was going to go into a meeting, one of the things that I did, if I was going to offer a suggestion about how to move forward with an initiative, I went around and threw that idea out little by little to everyone that I knew would be in the meeting. And I got their feedback. If they said make a change, I'd kind of tweak that change. So by the time I got into the meeting, everybody kind of knew what I was proposing. And I made sure enough people knew that it would get passed. My dad, who's a Baptist preacher, he used to say two things to me. Every battle is not worth fighting.
It's not.
And the second thing he said is, I was a child listening to him, and I thought, what is he saying? But he said, when you go down the road and you run into a mountain, if you can't go through the mountain, you look to your right, you look to your left, you look over, you look under, because there's a way around the mountain.
Yes.
And it was not until I joined IBM that I understood what he meant. And I share that with you, because there is always a way to accomplish what you want to do.
Yes.
The first thing that I do if I come into a new organization, I sit down with the people that report to me, and I say, here's who I am. Here's how I operate. Tell me about you. What are you looking for? Because they may be there looking for something that I can't deliver. And I want them to know right up front, I can't promise you that. Or if you perform and deliver these results for me, then we'll talk about moving you to the next career. And then whenever I interview for a job, I always know the next job I want. And so I always say, I want to do this, I want to do this for you and for me, and I want to do a great job. So if I do that, I want to be rewarded. So tell me, here's where I'd like to go. Can you help me get here? Or what do I need to do to get there? So right off, he knows or she knows, I'm not there to be in a job for 7-10 years.
Okay, so we are over time. Thank you guys. Thank our panel for being here to share some light. If you have any questions, don't hesitate.